Stephane Matteau. Stephane, thank you for joining us. How many days go by where you don't get reminded of that call and that goal?
Well, every time I step into New York, it's especially the last 2-3 weeks, it's been crazy, but it's pretty ironic that a French-Canadian had the chance to score a big goal like that. But every time I step to New York for the playoff game, I get reminded every single time.
You know, it's interesting with you and with Noonan and McTavish. You guys had come over, kind of similar to St. Louis and other parts. How was it being in the room with the guys who had been there forever and then the guys that had just joined the team either that year or at the trading deadline? And how did you guys find a way to mesh together that late in the season?
We got traded pretty late in the season at the deadline, so we didn't have time to reflect on pretty much on this season. So with the leaders that we had for the Rangers in '94, they welcomed us, and we went to work that very same night in Calgary and the next night in Edmonton. So we were welcome, and we were on a mission, and they were first overall, and they were fighting for the home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. So the leadership in '94, I think, was the best group ever assembled together. So we felt welcome right from the get-go, and that really helped us.
You know, it's interesting. You were at Game 6 against the Canadiens. I showed you on the board, and you had that Ranger Stanley Cup hat. Now, did you keep that all these years, or did somebody give it to you to wear that day?
Well, actually, just behind the camera, the guy was wearing it, and I knew I was going on the big screen, so I asked him if I could use it, and because it's something that you don't forget. It's part of it's part of the history, and I'm part of it. So I was very proud of using the guy hat, but it was not my hat. I don't have those hats anymore. I give them away. All the way.
Now, as you mentioned, you were battling for the President's Trophy at the end of the season. You were the favorite, clear-cut favorite, really, in every series that you played on the way to the Cup Final. Different situation for this Rangers team. So from your experience playing the role of underdog as opposed to being the favorite?
Well, we were, like you said, we were far ahead of everyone else in the league back then. Even though the Devils were a very good team in '94, we were clearly the favorite. So we had to win. We had a lot of pressures, and this year the Rangers are totally the opposite. Nobody expected them to be that far in the playoffs. Third round would have been good, but now they're in the finals, and it's a very nice surprise, and I think that's the surprise in the National Hockey League at the 2014 playoffs. So they play with less pressure, even though they were down 3-1 against Pittsburgh. A sad event happened when Martin St. Louis' mom passed away, and they took a step back and they realized it's just a hockey game, and they all gathered together and they put together a very good streak. I think they won 5 straight after that. So they are playing under pressure, but not that much pressure because nobody else expected them to be that far.
Stephane Matteau is our guest here on the Michael Kay Show. Now, everything that you say is true about no one was expecting this, but now that they're in the Stanley Cup, now you expect to win. It's no more, anything you get is gravy. So let's talk about this. How do you think they match up with this Kings team?
I think they match up well. The Kings lost a lot of games in the playoffs so far, even though they were down 3-0 against San Jose, and they came back. So and against Chicago, they lost 3 games, so they are beatable. And I think the Rangers match up against any other team in the NHL this year, and including the LA Kings. So I think it's a good matchup, and I think they're going to win in 6 games, and they. Nobody will tell them they're the underdog. They have everything, the best goaltender in the league this year, great defense, and still some players on the Ranger team still has to produce, and it's never too late for Nash to come up big in the playoff and in the finals to come up big, and Brad Richards hasn't produced as much, and there's all those guys are they're ready for the playoff, I'm sure, for the finals.
That was going to be my question. Can this team win this series without Rick Nash having a great offensive performance?
I've been looking at him a lot. A lot of people criticize him because he hasn't produced as much. He has done a great job on the penalty killing. Physically, he's been great. He's been a factor physically. So it's not like he's been playing very bad. It's just he hasn't produced as much. And I think the power that the LA King has will match very very good on Nash's style. So because they're physical. physical. Nash is a big guy, but he's gonna have a lot of room to skate with the puck, and I'm looking forward to see him produce a lot in the finals.
Now, Stephane, a lot of people are saying that the strength that LA has is their size. They lean on you, they wear you down, and sooner or later they're just going to overcome you. How do the Rangers counteract that?
The speed, the power play, and their quickness. They have a lot of skills, and they can generate power with the top three lines. So I wouldn't be shy at all if I was in the Rangers locker room. They have big bodies, also good defense, and a great goaltender. So physically, if they get punished, I've seen them before. They bounce back, and they're not afraid of anybody, and they block a lot of shots. It's amazing how many people would lay their body in front of Lundqvist to sacrifice for the sake of the team. So they look good, and I don't think it's a fluke now. They're in the finals.
Now, in protecting leads like they did in Game 6 and like they did in Game 7 against Pittsburgh and all the blocking shots, is that a tip of the cap to what was instilled by John Tortorella before he was let go?
Well, he brought that system the last 3-4 years, and a lot of players who's been in that locker room has done it. So it's no strangers to the 2014 team to block a lot of shots, and that works. So you could feel, you can see the tightness of the hockey team, and they're doing anything in their power to block shots or sacrifice their body. We got guys like Dominic Moore and Brian Boyles. They block so many shots in a different way, so it's contagious, and everybody else is doing it.
All right, Stephane's going to join Brian Leach, Mike Richter, and Mark Messier and Adam Graves at a VIP reception for Steiner Sports at the 92nd Street Y. It's next Friday night, June 13th. Go to steinersports.com for details as Steiner Sports presents a celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Rangers' 1994 Stanley Cup Championship. And, Stephane, before we let you go, did you ever think that 20 years later it would still resonate the way it does in New York? And you said every time you come to New York, people remind you all the time. Did you ever think it would last this long?
No, not at all, to be honest with you. I'm very fortunate that I was part of this team, and very fortunate that they gave me a chance to come back in Madison Square Garden. And Game 6, when I came out with the fans, I did that on purpose. I came out the rink with the fans. It was not a better feeling for an ex-athlete, even though it's 20 years later. It seems like it was yesterday, but it was just I have it on my phone, and I'll keep that for a long, long time.
And you keep in touch with Howie Rose, right?
He talked to me. We called each other. Now we have phones. Now we have his number. So I called him on the 27th again, and we chat. And what a great guy. And he's just he's been going strong the last 20 years. And I'm glad that he made the call, because a lot of people thought that Tikkanen scored, and he had the vision to. He had the quickness to call my name 3 times, and everything. The rest is history. So I'll be grateful for Howie Rose for the rest of my life. That's for sure.
And who would have thought you would have beat a goaltender that technically is still in the league 20 years later?
Yeah, the best goaltender of all time, and he's a class act. And when my son played his first game last year against the Islanders, he's the first guy to came out of the dressing room and came to shake my hand, and my wife and my daughter. So what a class act, and he's. I'm a big fan of Marty, brother, that's for sure.
Stephane, thank you for coming on. That should be great next Friday at the 92nd Street Y, and I hope we talk to you sometime during the Stanley Cup Final.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good night.